Hey, welcome back. Today's episode is about guilt, and I'm going to just have a closer look what it is, what it really does to us, and why we feel guilty for certain things. There's two types of guilt, and the first type is that you feel guilty, or people in general feel guilty for doing something stupid, or for doing something wrong, or for making a mistake. People feel guilty for about that, and that can really put you into a position where everything seems to remember you on that certain action. Everything seems to remind you on what you did wrong, and so it can haunt you for a long time, and it can create certain really depressing thoughts that can lead to very bad actions. I mean, there's that story of the soldier who goes to war and his plane crashes and he gets imprisoned by the other guys, and they ask him, okay, we will either kill you or we will give you the chance to, give us some information about your army, about where your people live, where they store their weapons and everything like that. And he's so in fear that he does something. He rats his own people out. He tells them where the weapons are and everything like that. And they put him back into a cell, and he feels so guilty afterwards. He just says, oh my God, what have I done, right? He feels so guilty, and he cannot handle those depressing thoughts. Ego telling him that he's just a really stupid guy to rat out his guys. He cannot handle those thoughts, and so he kills himself. This is just an explanation, or this is just a story, but I know people personally who ended their lives because they could not handle those depressing thoughts, and they thought that they were guilty of doing something very wrong. The other type of guilt is people think they're guilty of not doing a certain thing. We all have that feeling that we don't do enough, we don't do what we said we're going to do. All those kind of thoughts really get us into a motion where our ego tells us you're worthless, you're a liar. Why? Because you don't do the things you said you're going to do. So you're a liar, you're worthless. And it can be really drastic, and people can get stuck there. Where I live, there is a guy, I think he's still alive, but everybody knows that guy because he's all over the city and he drives with the local buses, and he's drunk pretty much all the time. He just mumbles, but if you get close to him or if you speak to him, he will yell out a name. He will yell, Tilo, Tilo. He will just yell that name over and over again, and we would just imitate him and yell, Tilo, Tilo, and we would just make fun, and we would just laugh about that guy who's always drunk and yells that name around. But we would only make jokes because none of us ever heard his story. None of us really know that guy, right? So I do not know the full story, and I've never really spoken more than a couple of words with him, but what I know is that this guy actually lost a child by the name of Tilo. He lost his wife too, and in his reality, it is his fault. He's guilty for that. He did not do the things he was supposed to do. He did not do the things he promised to do. He did not protect them as well as he should have done. And therefore he's stuck in guilt. He's stuck there, and he tries to wash away those thoughts with alcohol, which seem to just make it worse. But that makes a point. It just tells you that people can feel guilty so bad and get stuck there for not doing a certain thing. And that can be just as painful as doing something wrong. Now, they made surveys and they say that people on their deathbed rarely regret or feel guilty for the things they did in their lives. They say, oh, I learned something there, or time went on. It was stupid, but, it brought me somewhere. But they're always, or most of them, feel guilty for the things that they did not do. So that's a huge power. Now, usually I would just spit out some advice and tell you how to deal with it and then just leave. But when my friend asked me to do this video about guilt and about feeling guilty that you are not doing the things that you said you were going to do, I said, this is so unique. This is such a specific topic, and I cannot just be the wise man and then leave you and just have you work it out yourself. So today I'm not going to give any advice. I'm not going to give any advice, but what I can give is I can give you a couple of questions that might help you to work on that inner conversation that happens every time you feel guilty for something. Here they are. The first question is, what do you think you're guilty for? What are you guilty of? What is it that really triggers that feeling of guilt? Who blames you for that certain thing or not doing that certain thing? Who is it? Is it somebody else and you feel guilty that way? Or is it yourself? Have you ever tried to ask for forgiveness, either the other party or yourself? Have you ever written down what you're guilty of just to get another look on it? Who could you talk to? Who could you share your thoughts and your feelings with? Who might have been in the same position and how did they deal with it? What happened there? Who do you trust? Who could you talk about it? Another thing would be, how could you learn something from it? What was the lesson that you learned from that thing that you did do and messed up, or that you didn't do and it was wrong? And what have you done so far, and what could you do from now on? What massive action could you take? Maybe those questions help you to just figure out how to handle that conversation with your own ego. And I hope it does, because I wish you that you transform those feelings of guilt that actually hurt you and turn them into feelings that this is the past, this is going to empower me not to do it again or to start doing something, and then get the change that you want for your life. Until then, let's create the change that we want. Let's ask the tough questions in life, and let's get some growing going.